Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. You know, life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect it. I was that guy, the one who thought he had it all figured out. A stable job, a quiet life, and a routine that could put anyone to sleep. But that day, the day I wandered into being serenity, was the day my life took a turn I never saw coming. There I was, glued to my phone, barely acknowledging the world around me. The usual, you know? But Julia, the barista with a smile that could light up the darkest corners of any soul, changed all that with a simple, "What can I get for you?" Her voice, man, it was like a wake-up call. And for the first time in a long while, I looked up. Really looked up. There was something about her, something that made me want to hang up that call and just listen. "One Americano, please," I managed to say, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Her suggestion to try the red velvet cake threw me off. Was she just upselling? Or was there something more? I decided to take the plunge. Okay, add that too. It was supposed to be just another coffee run. But as I found my seat, with a perfect view of the counter, I realized I was in for much more. I watched her, trying not to be too obvious, but I was drawn in, completely fascinated. "Looks like Emily's got an admirer," I overheard one of the servers whisper to her colleague. My heart raced. Were my intentions that transparent? The cafe buzzed with activity, but all I could focus on was Julia. Her energy, her grace behind the counter, it was mesmerizing. And when our eyes met, I knew I was in trouble. There was a connection, an unspoken understanding that we were both looking for something more. I wish I could tell you that was the end of it, a simple story of boy meets girl. But life, as I said, loves its curveballs. When I learned she was sick, something in me snapped. I had to see her, had to know she was okay. It was madness, driven by a feeling I couldn't quite understand. Arriving at her place, my heart was pounding out of my chest. The anticipation, the fear of the unknown, it was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. When she opened the door, the look of surprise on her face almost made me turn back. But I couldn't. I was in too deep. The conversation that followed was nothing short of revealing. She talked about her dreams, her struggles, and the distance from her family. And me? I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't even with my closest friends. There was something about Julia that made me want to be better, do better. As I left her apartment that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. And boy, was I right. In the days that followed, I found myself plotting, planning every move with a precision I didn't know I had. It wasn't just about winning Julia over anymore. It was about proving something to myself, to the world. I became someone I barely recognized, vindictive, calculating, and hell-bent on making sure no one, and I mean no one, could take away what I felt was rightfully mine. I know, it sounds crazy, but in the pursuit of what I believed was love, I was willing to cross lines I never thought I would. Betrayal, revenge, redemption, I was ready to play the game. And as for Julia, well, she was about to find out just how far I was willing to go. The game had begun, and I was in it to win it. I mean, after that visit to Julia's place, something inside me clicked. It wasn't just about getting the girl anymore. It was about securing my victory, marking my territory in a way I'd never done before. And believe me, I knew the stakes were high. Every day, walking into being serenity, my strategy had to be sharp, my moves calculated. The air between us was charged with this tension, a mix of anticipation and something darker. I could tell Julia felt it too. Her glances lingered longer, her smiles more tentative. "You seem different," she said one afternoon, her voice cutting through the usual hum of the cafe. Different good or different bad? I shot back, trying to keep my tone light, but my heart was racing. She paused, her eyes searching mine. "Just different," she finally whispered. That's when I knew I had her right where I wanted. But with every move I made, the guilt gnawed at me, a relentless reminder of the web of lies I was spinning. It was like I was two people, the guy falling for this incredible woman and the guy plotting his next move in a twisted game of control. The days turned into weeks, and our connection deepened, a complex mix of genuine affection and hidden agendas. The conversations we had, the moments we shared, they were real, but so was the deception. And as much as I wanted to tell her the truth, to confess everything, I couldn't. The fear of losing her, of losing this game, held me back. One evening, as we closed down the cafe together, the tension reached a boiling point. "Alex, is there something you're not telling me?" Julia's voice was soft, but there was a steeliness to it that caught me off guard. I froze, my mind racing. This was it, the moment of truth. But instead of coming clean, I doubled down on the deceit. Julia, you know you can trust me. There's nothing I'm hiding, I lied, looking her straight in the eye. She nodded, but I could see the doubt there, a flicker of suspicion that I hadn't seen before. It was a crack in the facade, a sign that the game was changing and not in my favor. The conflict wasn't just external anymore. It was raging within me. The deeper I fell for Julia, the more desperate I became to keep her, to win at any cost. But with each lie, each calculated move, I could feel her slipping away, the distance between us growing. It was a betrayal of the worst kind, not just of her trust, but of the connection we shared. And as I lay awake at night, plotting my next move, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was my own worst enemy, a man driven by vindictive ambition, risking the very thing he sought to claim. The game was far from over, but at what cost? The pursuit of victory had led me down a dark path, one where redemption seemed like a distant dream. And as the lines between love and obsession blurred, I couldn't help but wonder if I was destined to be the architect of my own downfall. Reality hit me like a freight train, derailing everything I thought I knew about myself, about Julia, about us. You see, the deeper I dug myself into this hole of lies and manipulation, the more the truth sought to claw its way out, demanding to be acknowledged. And when it did, it wasn't just a whisper in the dark, it was a scream that echoed through every corner of my existence. One evening, as I walked into Bean's Serenity, ready to enact the next phase of my plan, I was met with a sight that stopped me cold. There she was, Julia, but she wasn't alone. Across from her sat a guy I'd never seen before, making her laugh, her eyes lighting up in a way I thought was reserved just for me. Jealousy? No, it was more than that. It was a visceral reaction, a feeling of being betrayed, even though I knew I had no right to feel that way. Alex, meet Tom. Julia introduced us, her voice laced with a happiness that felt like a punch to my gut. He's an old friend from college. Tom extended his hand, friendly, oblivious to the storm of emotions raging inside me. I played along, shaking his hand, but my mind was racing, plotting, calculating. Who was this guy? What did he want with Julia? The questions consumed me, feeding into that dark part of me that I had tried so hard to keep at bay. The encounter was a wake-up call, a brutal confrontation with the reality of my actions. Here I was, so caught up in my own schemes that I hadn't considered the possibility of Julia having a life beyond me, beyond the confines of my calculated moves. The irony wasn't lost on me. In my quest to control everything, I had lost sight of what mattered most. That night, as I lay in bed, the weight of my deception heavy on my chest, I couldn't escape the realization that I had become the villain in my own story. The lies I had spun, the manipulation I had justified in the name of love, it had all led me to this moment of reckoning. Is this who you really are, Alex? The question haunted me, echoing in the silence of the night. I had to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. I had betrayed Julia's trust, and in doing so, I had betrayed myself. The conflict wasn't just between me and the world anymore. It was within me, a battle for my soul. Could I redeem myself? Was there a path back from the edge I had found myself on? The answers eluded me, lost in a sea of guilt and regret. In the days that followed, my interactions with Julia were tainted by the knowledge of my own deceit. Every smile, every touch, felt like a lie. And Tom's presence, innocent as it was, served as a constant reminder of the mess I had created. I knew I had to come clean, to confess everything to Julia, but the thought of losing her was unbearable. Yet, the longer I waited, the more the distance between us grew, a chasm forged by my own hands. The encounter with reality had shattered the illusion I had built around us. I was left with a choice: continue down this path of destruction or confront the consequences of my actions. The decision weighed heavily on me, a burden I was unsure I had the strength to bear. In the end, the truth would have its day, whether I was ready for it or not. And as I prepared to face Julia, to lay bare the depths of my deception, I couldn't help but wonder if redemption was still possible, or if I had already sealed our fate with my own vindictive ambitions. I reached a point where the silence between Julia and me became a living entity, feeding off my guilt and her unspoken doubts. It was suffocating, a constant reminder of the chasm I had created with my own hands. The reality of my actions, the betrayal and the lies, had finally caught up to me. And now, it was time to face the music, to confront the mess I had made. "Julia, we need to talk," I said one day, my voice barely above a whisper, laden with a weight I could no longer bear alone. She looked at me, her eyes searching, wary of what was to come. "Okay, Alex," she replied, her voice steady but cautious. We sat across from each other, the tension palpable in the air. I had rehearsed this moment in my mind 1,000 times, but now, faced with the reality of laying my soul bare, words failed me. How do you confess to the woman you love that everything she knows about you is a lie? Julia, I haven't been honest with you, I started, my voice faltering. The confession felt like ripping off a bandage, exposing a wound that had festered for too long. Her reaction was immediate, a mix of confusion and hurt flashing across her face. What do you mean? She asked, her voice laced with a pain that cut me deeper than any knife could. The floodgates opened, and I confessed everything, the manipulation, the jealousy, the lies. With each word, I could see the trust we had built crumbling, the foundation of our relationship shaken to its core. Why, Alex? Why would you do this? Her question hung in the air, a plea for an answer I wasn't sure I had. I thought I was protecting what we had, but I was just afraid of losing you, I admitted, the truth tasting bitter on my tongue. I was so caught up in my own insecurities, I didn't realize the damage I was causing. The silence that followed was deafening, a chasm of words unsaid and feelings unexplored. I braced myself for her anger, for the inevitable goodbye that would follow. But it didn't come. Instead, Julia did something I never expected. She reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. Alex, I'm hurt, and I'm angry, but I'm also willing to listen, she said, her voice a testament to her strength and compassion. It was in that moment, amidst the turmoil and the pain, that I realized the depth of her love, the capacity she had for forgiveness. We talked for hours, navigating through the debris of my actions, discussing the reasons behind my behavior, and confronting the fears that had driven me to such lengths. The path to redemption was not easy. It required hard work, patience, and a commitment to change. But Julia's willingness to bridge the differences between us, to see beyond the betrayal and give us a chance to heal, was the lifeline I needed. We emerged from that conversation changed, our relationship no longer defined by the lies I had told, but by our mutual determination to rebuild, to forge something stronger from the ashes of my deceit. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and the daunting task of rebuilding trust. But in that moment of confession, of raw honesty and vulnerability, I found hope. Hope that forgiveness was possible, that love could endure even the deepest betrayals, and that, together, Julia and I could bridge the differences that had once seemed insurmountable. As I reflect on that pivotal moment, I'm reminded of the power of truth, of the healing that comes from facing our darkest fears. It was a harsh lesson in the consequences of our actions, but also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity we have for forgiveness and redemption. In the aftermath of my confession, the world didn't end like I feared it might. Instead, it cracked open, revealing a path I hadn't seen before, a path paved with honesty, understanding, and a chance for redemption. Julia's willingness to listen, to truly hear me out, felt like a gift I didn't deserve. But it was one I was determined not to squander. We began the painstaking process of rebuilding, of stitching back together the fabric of our relationship that I had so carelessly torn apart. It was slow going, each day a test of our resolve, our commitment to each other. The trust that had been shattered didn't mend overnight. There were moments, plenty of them, when doubt crept in, whispering seductively that it would be easier to just give up, to walk away from the wreckage. But then, I'd look at Julia, see the faith she had in us, and me, and I'd find the strength to keep going. She became my beacon, guiding me through the darkness of my own making. I'm scared, I admitted to her one night, the vulnerability in my voice a stark contrast to the man I once thought I had to be. Scared that you'll wake up one day and decide it's not worth it. Julia took my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. I'm scared too, she confessed, her honesty laying bare the depth of her own fears. But I'm also hopeful. We've been given a second chance, Alex. Not everyone gets that. Her words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of my guilt and self-doubt. Together, we were navigating uncharted waters, learning to communicate, to forgive, and, most importantly, to trust again. The journey wasn't without its setbacks. Old wounds have a way of reopening when you least expect it, the scars a reminder of the pain we had caused each other. But with each hurdle we encountered, we grew stronger, more resilient. The lessons of the past, harsh as they were, had taught us the value of openness, of confronting our fears rather than letting them control us. And then, one day, it happened. Amidst the ordinary moments that made up our life, amidst the laughter and the tears, I realized that the love we shared had triumphed over the chaos I had created. It wasn't a grand epiphany, but a quiet acknowledgement of the power of forgiveness, of the capacity of the human heart to heal and to love, even in the face of betrayal. "I love you, Julia," I said, the words a testament to the journey we had undertaken, to the love that had weathered the storm. "Not just for who you are, but for who you've helped me become." Her smile was all the answer I needed, a silent promise of a future built not on the shaky ground of deception, but on the solid foundation of trust and mutual respect. As I stand here, reflecting on the path that led us to this moment, I'm struck by the realization that love's triumph isn't just about overcoming obstacles. It's about the transformation that occurs when two people commit to facing those obstacles together, to learning from their mistakes, and to forging a bond that is stronger for having been tested. The scars of the past will always be a part of us, a reminder of the lessons we've learned. But they no longer define us. Instead, they serve as a testament to our resilience, to the enduring power of love, and to the triumph of the human spirit in the face of adversity. I wish I could tell you that the path to a new beginning was paved with roses and sunshine, that every step we took away from our tumultuous past led us directly to bliss. But life, as I've come to learn, is far more complex than that. It's messy, filled with unforeseen twists and turns that test the very foundation you're trying to rebuild. Julia and I, we embarked on this journey together, armed with nothing but our determination to start afresh, to leave behind the shadows of deceit and betrayal that had almost torn us apart. It was a conscious choice, one that required every ounce of strength we had. "I'm terrified," I confessed to Julia one quiet evening, the vulnerability in my voice reflecting the turmoil churning inside me. "Terrified of slipping back into old habits, of hurting you again without even realizing it." Her response, gentle yet firm, took me by surprise. "I'm scared too, Alex. But we've come this far, haven't we? We can't let fear dictate our future." It was in that moment, amidst our shared fears and uncertainties, that I truly understood the meaning of a new beginning. It wasn't about erasing the past or pretending it never happened. It was about learning from it, growing stronger because of it, and moving forward with a newfound awareness of who we were and who we wanted to be. The road wasn't easy. There were days when the ghosts of my past actions haunted me, whispering doubts and insecurities that threatened to unravel the progress we had made. And there were moments when Julia's faith in us, in me, seemed like a fragile thread, ready to snap at the slightest provocation. But with each challenge we faced, we learned to lean on each other, to communicate openly and honestly, no matter how difficult the conversation. It was a slow, painstaking process, but with each passing day, the bond between us grew stronger, more resilient. And then, just when I thought we were finally finding our footing, life threw us another curveball. "Alex, there's something I need to tell you," Julia said one day, her expression somber, her usual radiance dimmed by the weight of her words. My heart sank, a familiar sense of dread tightening its grip around me. Had she discovered another lie, a remnant of my past transgressions I had overlooked? Was this the moment our fragile peace shattered beyond repair? "I'm pregnant," she continued, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. Pregnant. The word echoed in my mind, a mix of shock, fear, and something else. Something that felt a lot like hope. In that instant, the stakes were higher than they had ever been. We were no longer just two people trying to salvage a relationship from the wreckage of betrayal. We were going to be parents, responsible for a new life, a new beginning in the most literal sense. The news forced me to confront the reality of our situation with a clarity I hadn't possessed before. This wasn't just about me and Julia anymore. It was about the family we were creating, about the kind of parents we wanted to be, about breaking the cycle of mistakes and ensuring that our child would grow up in a world filled with love, trust, and security. As I embraced Julia, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement, I made a silent vow. I vowed to be better, to do better, not just for her, but for our child. I vowed to face the challenges ahead with courage and integrity, to build a future where the shadows of my past no longer had the power to reach us. Our journey to a new beginning was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. But as I stood there, holding Julia, I felt a sense of purpose, of determination that I had never felt before. Together, we would navigate this uncharted territory, armed with the lessons of the past and the promise of a brighter future. This new beginning was our chance to redefine ourselves, to prove that love, when rooted in truth and understanding, has the power to overcome even the darkest of legacies. It was a chance to write a new story, one where the scars of the past served not as reminders of our failures, but as symbols of our resilience, our capacity for change, and our unwavering commitment to each other and to the family we were about to become.